Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to Frost and Fire. A little reminder of the community challenge rules that I will be following. And of course, if you want to join along, rhadamant.com/frostandfire or Frost and Fire on the Steam Workshop gets you the mods, the scenarios, and the save game files. Picking up where we left off, I wanted to say thank you for everybody that pointed out that my battery grid was set incorrectly, allowing the southern batteries to be plugged in even when the switch was off, and I'll be fixing that shortly. There was a lot of feedback about potentially having a second researcher, and although I do agree on that sentiment, none of the other characters are good researchers, and to that end, I'm not going to allow it. One thing I did want to do is to put a steel stockpile indoors, just for security's sake. Just one little steel stockpile. It's not going to make it too ugly. And this is to prevent or to allow my characters to stay indoors if they have to make repairs and the like. So that's going to help someone like Bash make this cable without having to go outside. Something that is definitely going to be useful later on. Now, in the winter here, I actually had an idea for a little bit of a project that I wanted to get completed. It is going to be the start of a mining shaft. Now, the way this is going to work is it's going to be heated so that the miners in the shaft are not going to have to suffer through the terrible hypothermia. It's going to be difficult to keep the shaft cool in the summers, but this could definitely be a good winter project. And I'm going to have a Psychic Soothe male. That could not be any more beneficial. I'm going to have JD, Gabe, and Bash work on that. Gabe is going to be allowed to go back outside, though. Taking a look at the wildlife, there is no wildlife right now that I have to worry about, which is very good. Wildlife could be very dangerous, especially if the wildlife... let me explain a little bit of game mechanics here. So, animals do not slow down in the darkness, whereas your characters do. There is a movement speed darkness penalty that happens when it is dark, when it is nighttime. And then, of course, there's a movement speed penalty when you are severely hypothermic or heat stroked. So, during the winter and summer nights, animals are going to be significantly faster than you, meaning that they're also significantly more dangerous than they normally would be because you don't have a chance to outrun them. So to that end, you really do have to be careful about sort of the nighttime animal fighting that you might find yourself in, because it could be fatal very, very quickly. Okay, so now that I have everything plugged in correctly, and as you can see the power grid is right, we're going to be able to have backup batteries that do not explode when we have a short circuit event. Now, the next thing is to get the start of this mining tunnel constructed. Yes, of course, this is an infestation risk, and I accept the risk. I think it is worth it. Another suggestion that I heard from a lot of people is, hey, shouldn't you be stealing insect jelly? And you're absolutely right. I should be. So that is another little thing I'm going to do. I'm going to keep JD inside for a little bit, preventing him from being able to leave the base so that I can lose all the hypothermia, so that midday, which is literally right now, I can make a run for the insect jelly while the spiders are downed and unconscious. That's definitely the best time to do it, without a doubt. I'm going to have Bash start to work on the cabling towards the mining tunnel, and then once we have that set up, we will get the mining tunnel set up, and our miners are going to be able to mine throughout the winter with, relative ease compared to suffering the hypothermia that they were previously. And I'm just going to helicopter hover over people like Gabe, because as you can see, he is very close to hypothermia. I did also have other suggestions about, wouldn't it be nice if, the guys that were closing in on hypothermia, took care of themselves or whatever? And yes, it would. And the base game is designed to do that, but the base game is not designed for temperatures this extreme. And to that end, they're just not well suited for this level of hypothermia that we do experience on a regular basis, which is why, you do have to hover over them. You do have to micromanage your characters, and that's the whole point of this challenge. If it was easy, it wouldn't be a challenge, now would it? All right, so to that end, just making sure that JD here doesn't get super cold, and I do want to measure roughly what the cost of a run like this is, if he was fully cold at the time of running, to figure out what is my range, sort of a functional range calculation. Unfortunately, JD's going through a different door incoming than outgoing. So this is about the maximum of my range, if I'm being honest. Any further and I would have been uncomfortable. I got to the mid to high 20s as far as hypothermia comes. And then, of course, you have to remember that as soon as you become seriously hypothermic, your movement speed drops to a crawl. No joke. It's very, very, very slow. So if you are trying to travel far distances and you're getting very close to your to the 35 mark, any additional hypothermia over 35, and you could risk losing fingers and toes, or just not being able to move fast enough to avoid enemies. It's, in my opinion, very, very ideal for you to make sure to try to not push it to the limit in that way. It could be a very fatal experience, is all I will say. All right, so JD is going to warm back up so that hypothermia is 0, and then go for the other insect jelly. I'm not entirely sure that where are the other insects? So there was insects there. I think these insects are not too far. I think these are obtainable as well within his running distance at current temperatures. So I will try for that as well. And this insect jelly is going to be great for trade or emergency foods. Eating the jelly it sounds gross, but it's actually a sort of a recreational thing to do, and they are happy to do it. I'm going to be leaving the spiders because, and I've mentioned this in the past, but it's worth repeating, insect meat is no longer a thing in Frost and Fire. It's something called foul meat, and foul meat is gross and sort of terrible, and you should avoid eating it at all costs. There are ways to offset foul meat, but they're not good ways. All right, Bash, you're going to enter the base this way. Let me micromanage him a little bit because he got seriously hypothermic. And we'll put him inside. Now, another joke I heard. So at night, my hypothermia climbed to about 31% because, of course, we move slower at night. And it's a little bit colder at night. Distance hauling definitely should be done in the day if possible, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So what other feedback did I receive from you all? One feedback is that benches like stonecutters or steel butcher tables do present sort of a default negative cleanliness. One way around this is just to uninstall it. I could uninstall this thing and literally just keep it here. Butchery table. Because of how infrequently I'm going to even need a butchery table, I don't really even need it installed all the time. Now, having it uninstalled does mean that it can be absconded with by a raider. But I think at that point, if they're already in my base and taking stuff, I probably have worse things to deal with, I'd imagine. Soon the cotton will be harvestable, and that's going to allow me to make toques and maybe another parka. Making sure that Gabe does as much of this farming job as possible. And then he'll be back up to slagging. Yep. Now, another purpose of this mining tunnel is it will be a non-renewable, but a fairly, I wouldn't use the word infinite, but a fairly plentiful source of slag as well, as we're mining tunnels around to be able to traverse. And as you can see, there are nodes of steel here, 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 here. There's a lot of steel that I already know and then there's components over here. There's a lot of resources that I have already sort of spotted, which means when we do start mining a tunnel, we're not mining blindly towards some arbitrary target. We actually have, I already know more or less the path that I can take. All right, Bash, I'm going to allow you outside. And Gabe, you're hypothermic, but you're close enough to the base where it's not that much of an issue. All right, so JD, what I want you to do is, it is 6 in the morning. I want you to do a little bit of heater work. I don't want him to make a run for the insect jelly until it's a little bit warmer midday. Gabe, weren't you just hypothermic? All right, you stay inside because you're going to freeze your toes off if you don't. And then Bash, you can work on the heater. JD, you stay inside as well. Raptor's making pretty good progress. Just got machining. We are working towards gun turrets because that's going to be a critically useful first technology. And then as soon as JD ditches the hypothermia, I'll probably have him make a run for... how cold are we? We are... we're too cold. All right, but, I can warm up in this... I can warm up in here. So right now it's very, very, very cold in here, but the heater will warm it up. It's struggling though. One of the reasons it's struggling is it's not double walled and it's not airlocked. So I can put in double walls and airlocks, and that will help out a lot. Just checking to make sure I don't have more overhead mountain. All right. And then if we check, I shouldn't... Yeah, I'm just shivering now because it was indeed warmer in there for then alternatively trying to make a run back to the base. All right, JD, you are ready to go. I hope. I do not know for sure, certain, but let's try to make a run for the insect jelly. And Raptor, 10 to Bash with no meds. So now the cleanliness of this area that the butchery has been pulled up is only -1. It's only a difference of 0.14, which is pretty inconsequential. Okay, a dash and grab. There's not enough time to mine anything like jade over here. It's just simply too cold, but we can at least haul. And I've learned my lesson not to prop these doors open in anticipation. Okay, and then once JD passes the threshold, I'll give him the stay close. And as you can see, that was just barely outside of our temperature tolerance. He became 34% hypothermic on his way in, which is about as much as I'd ever want to go. Now, other research that would be good to have would be... well, we do have cyclic brewing, so in these brand new planted... basins, I'm going to switch over to cycloid leaves so that we can start to get some tea. Again, tea has 2 added benefits. One, when you're really, really cold, you might have some pain left over from frostbite. In this case, it was his nose. Thankfully, it's only 1% pain, so it's rounding down. But additionally, it's a recreation type, and it's also... it's a recreation type, and it is a pain reliever, so it is a good thing to have done, as a way to mitigate mood and wounds and the like. It's going to be very, very helpful. Okay, so he's getting too cold. He decided to eat a meal outdoors, and now I'm sticking him in that isolated little spot again. For the same reason. Your characters are not very smart, so if I hadn't been micromanaging him, he would have eaten this whole meal outdoors and probably lost a finger or so. And honestly, no exaggeration, I think that's probably what would have happened. While JD doesn't have built up hypothermia, let's make another run for the last of the insect jelly. And I think that's all the jelly that is on this map. All right, Bash, you're probably pretty good now. Let's haul this meal back so that we eat on a table. It's one of the advantages of a nutrient paste machine is when you eat nutrient paste, you don't tend to store it in your inventory, which means that you eat it at home, which definitely has an added benefit. And I'm actually going to go through all these guys and have them drop their packaged survival meals. Not that I'm worried about carry weight, but we might as well have that at home. Because if they do collapse, let's say, it is just more cleanup if they have that. So as you can see, this late day, near nighttime run got a little bit more dangerous for JD, but that's okay because he's done for the day. My battery power is dropping. This colossal building, it's far from colossal, but protect 37 more days. Wow, that was quite lucky. Two ship chunks dropping just feet from my base. I almost feel like, honestly, I almost feel like that's too lucky. Just to prove that I'm not, just to prove I'm still on losing this fun Randy Random, right? So it's just luck. It's just luck. Randy is random, and he just chose to drop ship chunks on me. Because I'm sure there's a lot of you struggling with this challenge, and you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, if only I could have 2 ship chunks drop on me, I would be okay. And you know what? You'd be right. This is kind of ridiculous. Like, it almost makes me want to just go to dev mode and delete them. So now that we're heading into the mid-winter, we're heading into some of the coldest temperatures that you're going to expect in Frost and Fire. It's about a negative 105 Celsius. It can get colder than this, because of course I don't have to remind any of the veteran RimWorld players, but cold snaps are a thing, as are volcanic winters, and as are climate adjusters from mech clusters. So you could get a climate adjuster to bring down the temperature another 10 degrees. If you got all 3 of those together, oh, it would just be unbearable. But, yeah, this is, on average, roughly the temperatures that you'll see is sort of the negative 115 Celsius on average or so. The need warm clothes might give you sort of a forecast, but as you can see here, it kind of is just forecasting negative 107. And then, jokingly enough, because the custom climate cycle mod that is being used to manipulate the temperatures here, it doesn't well adjust to RimWorld's own understanding of seasons. It also is telling me it is permanent summer, which I think if summer is negative 107, that's one hell of a summer. Alright, so the Psychosoothe ended. I'm surprised I didn't get any inspirations off of like Raptor or anything like that. Alright, so Bash, your hypothermia is not so bad. I'm going to have you break this down. Takes a little while to break down a ship chunk, but it's worth it. The components are really necessary. One of the questions that I had from, suggestions and the like was, why not make more, let's say, auto doors or et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of other like nice to haves that I could build out. And one of the reasons why I haven't built a lot of that stuff out is components are just such a rare and necessary resource early on that it's going to be really, really important to min-max the amount that you get. All right, so I'm going to start a bit of a mining tunnel here, and I'm going to tell Gabe to stay close, and I'm also going to tell Gabe and JD to prioritize mining higher. So this kind of mining here, this like shaving of the mountain, can wait. It can wait until... Have you been out too long? Okay, you're going to be cold. But that kind of shaving of the mountain can wait until it's warmer. This stuff here we'll want to do immediately. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to cancel. I'm going to manipulate the stay close zone to remove all this slag that's out front. And draw instead from the slag out back. Draw from... oh, hold on. This steel is not being used. There we go. And here's our last bench. So we're starting to get beautiful, beautiful cotton. And to these, the first 4 things I'm going to do is 4 toques. And that will be JD's job, as he's our tailor. So I'm turning off the lights so that it takes me a little bit more time. Now, I misspoke when I talked about meals. Meals are made in batches and don't benefit from a lack of light or anything like that. But the tailoring still does. So as he is hypothermic, it almost would be worth me getting him even more hypothermic. But as he is hypothermic, or rather in the cold and in the dark, there's a bit of a benefit there. Now, another thing I wanted to do is I'm going to force wear this for them until I have a full set of winter clothing. I'm not going to change outfits or anything like that. And in fact, I might keep 150 steel inside. And the goal here is to get 4 toques and 4 parkas. Raptor is less important because he is commonly going to be indoors and therefore not need the weather protection. But it wouldn't hurt, especially in case of a solar flare or something like that, where we are going to, be very, very cold. So this good one I'm going to force wear on JD. JD spends a lot of time outside. And then Gabe's going to take 1. Mash is going to take 1. Actually, Gabe should take the good quality because he's a miner and he's going to spend more time outside than Bash. And then the last one will be for Raptor. And now, why are we making a... Oh, is this a do... Oh, well. We're going to have 1 spare toque. I thought I did 4, but I guess I did 5. Alright, Bash, switch out. Now that we have the toques, I'm going to make parkas. I'm going to make 3 more parkas. I don't have enough ingredients for any of them. That last toque really destroyed that for me, but oh well. But if you take a look at the temperature tolerance here, now we're down to negative 51, which is nowhere near outside temperature. That's 100 degrees Fahrenheit colder. But it will protect us a little bit more. Gabe, Bash, and Raptor are all about the same temperatures as well. Oh no, there we go. We actually had enough. So JD will get a second parka. And that will probably go to Gabe because they're the miners. A meteorite of ancient metal. It blends perfectly right in, like you wouldn't even know it ever got sent. So this little tunnel here is going to be also for our own protection, to be able to traverse the map more quickly, and also for guests and allies and the like. They'll be able to take shortcuts to our base that enemies will not be able to take. That's going to be critically important when it comes time to taking in refugees or anything like that. Instead of the warming station idea that I kind of shot down because it tends to get destroyed, raiders don't tend to break down doors in mining tunnels and the like. It may happen, but the intention, of course, is to, behind the initial doors, to set up turrets to dissuade sappers from using them, because sappers tend to take the path of least resistance, and if you stick if you stick a turret behind it, it's no longer a path of least resistance. It's going to be a dangerous path. All right, so now we have this mining tunnel. And what I think I'm going to do is, once we get deep enough, I'm going to fork it so that some of it goes west towards maybe this steel here. I don't want to go out to the edge of the map exactly, because you can't build, once you get within this white line, you can't build doors anymore. But I'd like to get close. And that will also allow for multiple people to be mining at once. All right, JD, how is your experience in crafting? Oh, you are getting up to level 13, or yep, 13 pretty soon. Being in the dark, being in the cold, definitely helpful. Now my inside here is probably not cold enough, or not warm enough. Cold enough, Jesus. Not warm enough right now, so that's another point of focus I'm going to work on. I'm going to get some additional heaters because our grow rates are going to get tanked if I don't fix that. It's negative 112 Celsius for reference. Okay, I might just put the last heater in now. Now, I was asked about removing this door, but I want to keep that door in to make it easier to haul things to where they need to be. Even if it does cool down my farm a little bit, it's negligible enough that it's not going to kill me, because this room here is not crazy in the negatives. It's 18 Fahrenheit. It's negative 164 Fahrenheit out. So, you know, it's not crazy to keep this door here at all. There's a good argument to be made that I might even want another heater in the freezer, but I'm not really going to worry about that. It's right now. It's acceptable temperatures, and to that end, I'm not immediately concerned. All right. It seems to be a mostly acceptable temperature around the base. One thing I will do is maybe just spread out the heaters. Now, heaters, I never really mentioned this, but they propagate their heat instantly and perfectly. So the temperature of an entire room will be the same. It doesn't matter where you build the heater. So if I built all my heaters in the corner here, they're heating this corner of the area just the same as they're heating the bottom corner here. It doesn't really matter where you build them, just that they're in a specific room. Okay. And now we have a small but growing abundance of food, which is a nice cushion to fall back upon if we have lean times or solar flares that wipe out our crops. It's going to be very, very important if you want to live long term to have backup of everything. Backup steel, backup components, backup meds, backup clothing, backup food. Because without it, you're risking a situation where you could very, very easily be killed off, and there won't be much to do about it. Got to be careful about those situations. You know, you don't want to run so lean that you die. All right. I just expanded the stay close zone to allow them into this mining tunnel. This tunnel right now is about, I mean, as you can see, it's very, very rapidly fluctuating, but it's warm enough for them to mine. You could also use this heater as a lighting source if you wanted to, if you just nudge it a little bit closer to where you're going to be mining, which is not a terrible idea if you want to mine a little bit faster. But of course, after a little bit of time, the heat drops off dramatically, or the light source drops off dramatically, and you'll lose whatever benefit you might have had. So this tunnel up here, I want to go north and maybe exit here, or even out here somewhere. Really having a network of under-mountain tunnels. And I know a lot of methods to be able to defeat infestations, so I'm not worried, if you were wondering. I am not really worried about infestation risk, because they're compared to the Reapers, they're really the least of my worries, is I think the way to put it. There's the farm. Bedrooms are on the cold side, and we're starting to get slept in the cold. So I'm going to... I don't know if I want to put more heaters in the bedrooms or just some additional heaters. Oops, that should have been a built copy. Some additional heaters out here in the main area. This main area might be a little too voluminous. Or rather, fancy term for it might be too big. But eventually, when you factor in fabrication benches, machining tables, which I could also make right now, I could set up a machining table. It uses a whole lot of the steel that I have, but I think it's a wise thing to build. If I set up machining tables and electric smithies and all this sort of stuff, you could very easily see this workshop area being clogged pretty quickly. So actually, this machining table I'm going to set here. Sorry, game, I'm going to pull you away from what you're doing. Putting the smelter next to the slag pile, and then the machining table over a bit. And I'll keep the butchery uninstalled until it's needed. Cargo pods. Psycho T. Well, that's not bad. And that's not that far from the base. I could definitely have JD go for that without much issue. So, that also brings me to a new point. We're going to want shelves for this stuff, for beer and tea. So I'm going to get some shelves up. I don't have a lot of storage space. As you can see, I'm actually flatly running out. I have no space for this stuff. Another crop that I would like to plant soon is hill root, so that I can have a variety of medicine at my disposal. I can have the high priority medicine for when I'm very sick or doing surgeries, and then I can have heal root for just the cuts and scratches of everyday survival. But hitting a compacted... Oh, you were sleeping in here. So the reason he's sleeping in here, if you're wondering, is it is right now negative 189 Fahrenheit or negative 123 Celsius between where he is in the base. And it makes the AI think that that's just, like, too far away. And that's why he fell asleep. And that's a problem you're going to have. And there's honestly just not a good solution to avoid that I've found, other than to not have gaps in heating, but that's just not realistic either. So my farm is struggling to keep its temperature, but it's doing okay. I think as this main room heats up a little bit, the farm will be better off. So getting some additional heaters in will serve that purpose. As far as any weapons to make, I'm good right now. I mean, an argument could be made that Raptor could use a bolt-action rifle rather than a revolver, but his shooting skill is so dreadfully low that I think it's a drop in the proverbial bucket, and I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so it is very, very, very cold up here. It's negative 44, but that's still within JD's temperature tolerance, which means that he'll actually lose his hypothermia, as you can see. Now, as we make this area larger, it's going to get colder and colder and colder. If you make sure that to not mine too close to the edge of the mountain, you're not going to make it too cold, though. Double walling, leaving like space for 2 walls or so, will help to mitigate the onset of cold. So I'm gonna power off this this machining table because I'm not really using it right now, but it will be very handy when I have mechanoids to shred said mechs. I'm also going to treat this as additional storage area, like I said I would. So this is going to be a low priority backup stockpile. If I could, in some way, click it. Low stockpile. All right, and that gives us some storage space. Gabe here does run the risk of hypothermia because he isn't as well insulated as JD. So I do have to sort of keep an eye on him, making sure that he stays alive and upright. I'm actually not going to have him eat without a table, if I can help it. So let's get him back inside. One way to fix this is to add more cables, add these power conduits to go deeper into my mining areas, and then create doors to limit the area, the square footage that the heaters have to heat, because the heaters no longer really sufficiently heat that area. My farms are fine temperature now. It's no problem at all. And we are, I would say, at this point, at the height of winter, so it's negative 115 Celsius or so. The 7th or 8th or so, is midwinter, which is where it's coldest, or when it's coldest. Now, as you can see, Gabe's mood is pretty low. The fact that he is in an ugly environment and freezing cold is definitely not helping. There's not much I could do about the ugly environment. The act of smoothing out floors and, the act of smoothing floors and the like are kind of dangerous. And I say that because it adds enough colony value. Oh, wow, he is... Okay, I need to go inside. Right now. So smoothing out things like floors and walls makes things very, very pretty. But that comes at a bit of a cost. Because when it becomes pretty, it also adds wealth. And that can be very, very dangerous. One thing I could do, though, is right where the light illuminates around the heaters is enough light to also plant flowers. And I'm going to have JD stay inside because he's going to make a run for that Psychite tea. So I'm going to make some basic flower beds. And plant some flowers in here to hopefully, I was hoping that it was going to improve the room's quality. Now, the other problem is it gets a rather cramped. Let's see if I can't game it to be a little prettier. No, it also depends on the quality of the potted plants as well. So JD, you are now idle. Let's have you go for that tea. I'm gonna haul that Psychite tea. Okay, so these bedrooms are becoming decent now, up from mediocre. That should help out a little bit. And did you haul both teas? You did. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, JD. This is going to help for mood. So let's put him back on stay close. And then if we take a look at the scheduled drugs, as you can see, Psychite tea will be drank if our mood's, let's say, below 70%. But we're not going to keep any in our inventory, for fear that, oh, Gabe, you are good to go. So Gabe here is going to be set to winter clothing as well. And that means he's going to switch to that parka. And that protects him to negative 43, which is better than the around 10 degrees that the duster without the parka was offering. And that way he's not going to be so hypothermic when he enters the mining tunnels. These mining tunnels will be a little bit toastier. To that end, I also want to lower the haul priorities We still have some more daily leaves to plant, but these decent bedrooms are also going to help with mood as well. And hopefully they aren't sleeping. No, maybe they're all sleeping in the cold. Or close to it. I did get a lot of tips or suggestions about using the geysers, and just personal preference, I chose not to. To justify that personal preference, part of it is because if you do build a geothermal generator on it, the geothermal generator square footage makes it so that it can't really be used as a safety heating, because the geothermal generator is so large that the room in midwinter is too cold for safety heating. Because like right now it's negative 187 Fahrenheit. And if I had a geothermal generator built here, the radius of my area around it would be like this or so, and that means that it would just not be the steam geyser wouldn't produce enough heat to keep us alive in the case of a really bad solar flare or something like that. So that's what's going on there. It's just that it might be useful now, but it won't be useful soon, and for that reason I'm not using it. Okay, I'm going to work on these conduits with JD. And Gabe, you are going to get the rest of that compacted machinery, because that's critically important for long-term survival. Alright, don't eat that. Haul it back. Use the dining room. So far, I've been pretty careful about the mental breaks and risks that I've been taking. What I'm going to do is temporarily flick the smelter off and just start hauling things as a little bit of a higher priority. Okay. Gabe probably needs to be inside. Bash, let me get you constructing out here. Now, part of this reason why we're not constructing out here sooner is our characters are just, they consider going outside to be such a dangerous act that they just aren't traversing to go to these tasks. And that's just a challenge that you're going to have continually. So now that we have sort of like 3 airlocks here, it should allow the most inside zone to heat up a little bit. And I'm going to put a temporary stay on mining here so that we can start to haul. And haul this slag in and get it ready to be smelted down. So it looks like soon I'm going to have tea brewing to do. I'm just going to forever do Psychic tea brews. Our farms are staying warm enough. Our bedrooms are decent enough. Our general workshop is dropping in quality, but that's more or less because of the slag that's being stored there, as the slag is particularly ugly. But we can fix that. All right, so we did just get gun turrets, and that's going to significantly raise our ability for long-term survival. Gun turrets are critically important, as any RimWorlder can tell you. And what's going to be very important is for me to use resources like uranium ore. Regular steel gun turrets are too fragile and will get destroyed far too often. Whereas uranium ones will be able to stick around a bit and tank, which is very, very important in the long run. So that means mining that uranium when we're able. Currently, I think it's probably too cold. It's probably just simply too deathly cold to make a run for that. But keeping an eye on it so that we might be able to, when it warms up a bit, will definitely be helpful. So yeah, the temperatures in here are negative 20-ish Fahrenheit. Totally fine. Totally fine for our miners, our 2 miners, to be mining now that they're in parkas. That's not really going to be an issue at all. I'm also increasingly adding the amount of cotton that I'm growing, because I know that my dusters here, probably particularly Bash's duster, yeah, at 93%, they are going to wear out eventually. I'm not going to be able to rely on them forever. And when they do wear out, if I don't quickly replace them, summers are going to be really rough. And then on top of that, I will need, heading into the summer, cowboy hats as well. Because cowboy hats act against cold very much the way that toques act against, or cowboy hats act against heat very much the way that toques act against cold, I should say. So this seems to me like a pretty good stopping place. We have gotten over the hump of the worst of the winter, where it was negative 175 Fahrenheit or so, give or take a few degrees. If you have any feedback for me, let me know in the comments below. I'm very much looking forward to getting to the warmer seasons, or at least the interim seasons, spring and fall, where we're going to be able to be a lot more productive on the world map, maybe take some quests and get a lot more raids done. Thank you for watching, everybody. I will catch you all next episode. Farewell for now.